Enjoy, my friends. How are you? We had a
I'm
win when we started recording, and now we've lost a win when we came out of the intro. So,
yeah, I switched tabs and all of a sudden I see my face and Ron's face, but no Wynn's face.
oh, that's very
Big
funny. How you
shocker.
doing, Michelle, my friend?
I am doing okay. Yeah, you can probably tell from my voice that I am not 100%,
Yep.
but I am doing better than I was a few days ago.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with the springtime cold. Is never fun. So there's
Yeah.
Win. How you doing,
Is
Win?
she back?
It's my internet.
You're mumbling. You're frustrated.
Sorry, it's my internet. I need to talk to my brother-in-law. The internet's just been horrendous this
All
trip
right.
home,
Well,
and
we'll roll with
I
it.
don't know why.
If you
Okay.
pop off, you come back on, it'll be all right.
I appreciate it.
Before we start the show, everybody watching the live stream that came early, congratulations, because you get to see Wynn's comically large mic screen.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. My my space ball. I don't know.
Oh, hey, Michelle, are you doing the Twitter thing or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me start that after that. But you also
Yeah.
get to see
Oh,
my
wait.
Pine Pal bot.
Look at
Nice.
that.
I just got it yesterday. If you haven't ordered it yet, you can get it from the Dead Zebra shop. I
Yep.
think it's like $15.
Oh, shoot. That's right.
It is-
I'm.
It's carved out of mahogany.
Yeah. It's not real wood, I think. It's like I don't know what material they use, but
Polyurethane.
it looks like it.
Yeah.
And it feels very nice.
And apparently
Highly recommend it.
their shipping is very fast. So.
Yep.
Oh man, that's too funny. All right, yeah. Well, Jason is off tonight, so you got the three of us, and we got a fun show lined up. All right, Michelle. Once you do that thing, then we can get on with it. Boom! I can't believe it's the end of March already. This is our last show in March, and a month and a half until Google I/O. Or Kotlin Conf, depending on your interest. But yeah, it should be interesting. All right, cool. All right,
All
so
right.
shall we get on with the show? Anybody need anything? I'm all set on my end.
Let's do it.
I think I'm good.
All right, Win, you good with the open?
Yep.
All right.
As long as I
Bye-bye,
stay here,
Michelle.
which I'm a little nervous about.
What?
Internet. That's all.
Oh, that's all right. We'll hope for the best. That's all we can
Okay.
do.
We'll do.
Really,
We'll do.
right? That's all we can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop my camera, but you can still hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray! I'm gonna cover you up. Don't take it personally. All right, and here we go.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps in this, our world of Android. I am Gwen now.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Mashal Rahman.
All right, welcome, my friends.
Hello, hello.
It's good to be back. Another week.
Another week. A lot more Android. to talk
87th
about.
week of Android Faithful.
I know, 87
kinda crazy.
weeks.
Nuh-uh, really?
Well, no, it's
Amazing.
technically 89 weeks because we took 2 weeks off at the end of the year for the holidays. So
True.
technically we're 89 weeks old, but show-wise, it's episode 87.
Dog ears. Podcast
Which, by
ears?
the way, the countdown continues. We were just 13 episodes away from our 100th episode.
Do you know when that's going to happen? What
Yes,
date?
June 24th.
Interesting.
And we're gonna plan an Android extravaganza. I just promised that with no idea what that means, but we're gonna figure it out because that's how we roll here. Yes, so Jason is off this week. We got the three of us. We got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about. Quick reminder though, if you're watching the show on YouTube or you're listening to this podcast or whatever, make sure you subscribe. If you watch the show on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the DTNS YouTube channel, the Daily Tech News Show YouTube channel, our pals over at DTNS. But also go over to Pocket Cast, go over to Spotify, subscribe to the show, help spread the word. Really appreciate everybody who does that. But yeah, get the word out, tell your friends. Best tech talk in the universe right here on this show.
Absolutely.
I was describing the show to somebody and they're like, so all you talk about is Android? I was like, no, I mean like mostly, but not only, right? We talk about other stuff.
Adjacent
We're a show
things.
called Android Faithful. Like,
I know.
what do you kind of expect from us?
That's fair. It's
But it's like-
it's a name.
I positioned it like it's the view of the technology world through an Android lens.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah,
Oh,
think that's fair.
I did want to call out that since we're coming up to like a big milestone, I do have to say that we have to say goodbye to Clinton Woodward's perfect attendance streak because I believe Clinton is on a cruise and it was kind of dependent on whether he could get connection. So we just want to thank Clinton Woodward for being the faithfulest of the faithful, even more faithful than the three of us, or the four of
Yep.
us rather.
Yep.
And just say very good run, Clinton. Whatever, how many episodes this were, he was perfect attendance until today. So not to be sad. We're not sad that it ended. We're just happy that you.
Yeah,
you
it's like Lou
managed for it.
Gehrig. It's like you celebrate,
Exactly.
and Cal Ripken. You celebrate when it ended. Clinton Woodward at every live stream for the past 86 episodes. And as Daniel in the chat says, Clinton is definitely here in spirit.
Yes, Daniel, 100%.
And we hope Clinton's having a wonderful time on his cruise.
Yes.
I'm jealous, not really, but Michelle. No, I am jealous. I do wish I was on a cruise right now. But Michelle, we don't only talk about Android on the show, right? When the news comes up, we talk about whatever, right?
Well, I mean, we do talk about other operating systems and other devices when there's an Android spin, and I think that perfectly encapsulates why we're talking about this story. So, as reported by The Verge, the European Union is trying to force Apple to open up certain iOS features. So, for those of you who don't know, the EU, a couple of years ago, they passed the Digital Markets Act, and part of that act is they designated certain companies as digital gatekeepers, and Apple was one of them. And so, as part of the act, the enforcement of that act, the EU has identified exactly what Apple needs to change in order to be compliant with the DMA. And a couple of days ago, they published a document that outlines some of the features that they have to open up by the end of 2025, including the notification support for third-party devices and features like SharePlay or AirPlay, or features that allow you to switch between your Apple iPhone and your Apple iPad when it comes to headphones. So it's a lot of features that are
like
AirDrop, AirDrop, the big one, yeah.
Can you
a lot of
imagine
features that are
getting
currently
an
exclusive.
AirDrop from an iPhone user to your Android phone? It might happen if you're in Europe. So.
A lot of features that are currently exclusive to Apple devices.
Yep.
It seems like the EU wants to make them open up and make them interoperable with other platforms. So that would be a big deal in terms of what kind of features you can use with your iPhone wielding friends. And it's not clear what kind of form this will take or what exactly Apple will do in response to it. Like, they have until the end of the year to actually commit and actually make changes, but they could still try to appeal, the EU's decision. They're
absolutely going to appeal it.
They might even pull the features entirely, because I saw a post by Mark Gurman from Bloomberg who suggests that Apple could just say, instead of making changes to our features, we're just going to remove them entirely from the EU.
Yeah. Apple's hubris in their comment to The Verge in the article that we're referring to, where they said the EU's requirements are, quote, bad for our products and for our European users.
They're pulling the same security and privacy BS that, I'll be honest, like Google does from time to time, but Apple does it for pretty much all of their features. Like, oh, you can't make us open up our features because it's gonna make the iPhone less secure. They did the same thing with the notification chip, the NFC chip, the contactless payments. They're like, if you force us to open up the NFC chip to third-party contactless payment providers, you're degrading the security of the iPhone. Lo and behold, they did it, and nothing happened. And Android has had it for...
It was the same argument with iMessage, with messages. Yeah. Like, if you make us use RCS, it's not gonna be as secure. And then what did we talk a couple of weeks ago? RCS added encryption. Apple supports encryption. Guess what? Everything's fine. The world is not ending, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just a trump card. They like to pull out that, and this will stifle our innovation, yada yada yada. It's just here, just have this, just chew on that for a while we try to squeeze as much money as we can out of certain things.
And like, we can see that Android pretty much has an equivalent analog of all these features, and they're much more open. Like the audio sharing capabilities that allow you to seamlessly transfer audio playback between your headphones. Google has its own version of that called the smart audio switching feature, and that's available for any headphone manufacturer that wants to support fast pair. So it's not like Apple couldn't do it themselves if they wanted to.
Right. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm torn on this because, you don't want governments to get involved. I don't know. maybe some people do. Whether government get involved in business or not, that is open to debate. Right. But I understand where Apple's coming from with the point of view that this is our secret sauce. These are the innovations and the products that we've created. That is our product offering to our users. And this is what you get for having our offering. But at the same time, I've said on the show many, many times for many, many years, I want to live in the Star Trek world where everything is universal and everything just works and you don't have to worry about whether you have the right thing or not. And, and the idea, like, how much of a revelation was USB, right? Universal serial bus, right? Like it worked on Apple's devices. It worked on PC devices. It worked. Everybody could get the same connector and it could work. And this fight for and the thing about it is it's not even as if Apple's an upstart and is fighting for their piece of the pie.
They got the most of the pie already.
Right. Yeah, they're afraid to let go of the pie, right? And so, I don't know. It's definitely challenging, but.
Yeah, it's weird because I think there's a heart to tech that is what you're saying, Ron, is that we want things to be open. We want people to have choice. We want technology to lift people up. And I still feel like deep down, I'll be fluffy about it. I think most companies have it somewhere in their hearts, but I think sometimes, and again, like your mileage might vary on government intervention, is that when profits and things like motivation like that get involved, that dream tends to get put in the side because it is more lucrative to have your own proprietary stuff and ask people to buy. And of course, if everyone buys your stuff and not like your stuff and company A, B, and C, that's like a little more money for you. So yeah. We can't have nice things.
I don't know. I don't know if I support the EU for pushing them to, because obviously I like to needle Apple and do kind of stuff, and I don't know if I support the EU for pushing it or if I definitely understand where Apple's coming from in terms of fighting it. I just wish we weren't having this fight in the first place ever. I don't know, but I know that's
Very fair.
Pollyanna. So, oh God. So, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this. So real quick, it's March 25th. Do you think Apple will make any changes by the end of 2025 as the EU is prescribing?
Honestly, I think they might go thermonuclear and just remove all the features from the EU. I think there's a good likelihood that could happen.
Interesting. What do you think?
I mean, that's not a bad strategy because then, all they're going to do is point fingers at the EU and wash their hands of it. And I feel like in other situations where they've been in similar situations, there's not much that one can do, I think, in this kind of situation to tarnish Apple's reputation. If anything, I feel like they always get props for kind of sticking to their guns and sticking to their walled garden, whether you agree with it philosophically or not. So I kind of can see where Michelle's going with this. I think they'll do that, and it might not even like put a dent in anything that they're doing, financially or reputationally, if that's a word.
I think they will appeal, and they will do nothing by the end of 2025, and we'll push into 26. So we'll see how it goes. Thermonuclear would be fun to watch, though. But
it would be fun. It would be fun.
All right. Well, speaking of races, Win, you got a big one.
Yeah. So there is a really great article that Wired did. So we have covered so many things on AI. So speaking about, do we only talk about Android? We do talk a lot about AI because AI and smartphones have become inextricably linked, like not even from a Gemini, Google, Android perspective, but all the manufacturers now. So it's so interesting because there is a history there, especially within Google, of the journey of Gemini. And Wired basically interviewed, I think, 50 or something, both present and current employees of Google, and kind of did a history on Gemini and where it has been basically since Sisi Zhao took over in December 2022. And it all kind of starts with ChatGPT and that the pressure and the frenzy that Wired calls it, the 2-year frenzy inside of Google to basically catch up with OpenAI, because for the longest time before OpenAI kind of dominated the chatbot space, Google was the AI leader, machine learning leader, whatever we called it back then. And it was such a surprise to all of us, and especially to Google when ChatGPT overtook them, that it caused, unsurprisingly, a lot of sturm und drang, a lot of shakeup, a lot of crazy happenings inside of Google. So Wired did a very prolonged piece kind of tracing back all the events from when Sisi Zhao took over in December 2022 with basically 100 days to catch up with OpenAI and basically all the crazy things that have happened since then. it's a long article. We can't really summarize it, but a lot has happened. And it's interesting because I feel like so many of the stories that we've talked about over the last 2, 3, 4 years of being with you guys and talking about AI, you can see them in the story. So a lot of times when we talk to you about, oh, hey, for example, I think we did cover, for example, when Google merged together DeepMind and Big Brain, it's like, oh, that's an interesting point from our side as like people on the outside, as commentators, as users. But then now this article, you can see how all of these headlines that we've shared with you over the last 2, 3 years have what it was like on the inside. And
I totally agree with you. When I thought this article was fascinating, and just for context, if you go to Wired's website, they actually have you can listen to the story, and the length of the story to listen to is 36 minutes.
Yeah,
which I thought was really funny because also like one of the things touted in the article was the development of the AI overviews and Notebook LM, like making a podcast out of stuff, right? And this is kind of doing the same thing. But this article, I really want to encourage everybody listening or watching the show tonight to go to Wired and read it, because if you are curious, if you've been listening to us for the past 2 years now, follow this train of Gemini from Mountain View out into the world, and how many times have been like, what's going on at Google? Why are they doing this?
Yeah.
What Bard? Why now it's Gemini? Like this article literally holds all of the answers to all of the questions we've had for the past 2 years about the development of Gemini. And it's also very honest and accurate in terms of what Google's position, because it tied the development of OpenAI and what was going on at Google directly to Google's stock price and the reaction they had to investors and the layoffs and all the stuff that we've been going through for the past couple of years as Google's tried to quote unquote right the ship. And Google had to participate in this. In fact, they're aware of this article. This article is so long and talks to people who are still at Google, and some people aren't at Google anymore. So the fact that Google allowed this article to run and work with it kind of feels like, talk about hubris of Apple, the hubris of Google, because so much of the story is about how Google had to catch up to OpenAI and they were getting beat. And by the end of this article, it's like, oh, and they've won. But have they really? I don't know if they really have won, because ChatGPT's got like 600 million users and Gemini has 160, I think the article said, right? So, it's interesting from that perspective, but this article has so many gems of stories and so many understanding of why stuff happened and how Assistant evolved into what then became Bard, what then became Gemini, and and how we often talk about how Google's left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. That was literally what was happening, in that you had the group in London and the group in Mountain View working on the same things, but they're working from a different context. And so it just really, really fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And even and that's a good point, Ron, that Google had to, Google was involved in this article, and they don't shy away from talking about all of the different mistakes, blunders, and gaffes that we have all laughed at, been concerned about over the last couple of years, like AI overuse, telling you that you can eat rocks, and like even the Super Bowl thing that happened this year and other things. And I think, especially as someone who works in tech, some of the most interesting and somewhat alarming things is kind of the way that they have to, there's a lot of amazing innovation and hard work that goes into doing something in 100 days, right? But then you kind of also have to see where the pressure goes in and where they have to, what compromises they had to make. And some of those compromises was in reviewing, was in some of the AI ethics boards and groups that they had at Google, and redirecting those resources. So of course your mileage might vary widely on that, but I think it's really important to read it and to see, it's really great to see. It's good for us to see how the sausage is made. How you feel about it and whether you can hold down your lunch after that is another question. But definitely go read it. Especially, just all the context of all this stuff we've talked about for all these years.
Lots of racist responses to prompts and hallucinations and things like that, and and leaning to and they trace back to what the salute, like why it gave that. They can figure out why it gave that answer, and they continue to tweak the model. But like all the ChatGPT have that problem. They've all had some problem in some shape or form of translating the knowledge into an actual conversational model, right? So
and like why ChatGPT seems to be a little bit bulletproof against hallucinations and gaffes, whereas every single time that Google has something happen, we pick it apart and we talk about it. So it's really, really interesting. Very worth a read. But I guess like we can talk about a win and something that I think genuinely Google has in like Google, a positive thing that Google has in its pocket, and that's Project Astra, which I don't know about y'all, but it definitely was one of the most impressive things that I think I saw from last year's Google I/O. And it was just, it wasn't a real, it wasn't a true product yet. It was more that kind of like first person view video of a person wearing Project Astra via glasses and walking around and being able to use the multimodal, so that ability that they're working on of Gemini to be able to take in text, voice, video, and synthesize that as a person would, and be able to answer questions, interact, and even kind of make these like interesting connections that a person would. So what a user on Reddit seems to have found is Project Astra like features within Gemini and Gemini Live in specific. And actually, this person had a Google One account, and I actually found this too. And Michelle, you actually had access to this new feature, which when you open up Gemini, you'll see on top, like if you initiate your Gemini assistant, over top of that Gemini bar that we now see where it says Ask Gemini, there's now a button that says share screen with Live. Please don't do that right now. And what happens is you start up a conversation with a kind of live conversation with Gemini. You get a little clock in the top left, and you can ask Gemini about literally what's on the screen. So if you go to this Android Police article where they reported on this Reddit user basically asked Astra about what's on his screen. And so Gemini rather, is just kind of making observations about the screen. And then there's another one, which is more of like that demo that we saw at Google I/O, where someone's walking around with the live video feed from their glasses and having Astra take in that live video, take in this person's verbal communication and synthesizing those requests, right? And so this person, I think they just turned on their camera. Now this interface, so they end up getting an interface that looks more like a camera rather than a straight screen share, which is what the first demo showed, is just they're literally their screen. There seems to be also something Project Astra E where it is more of a very specific video feed that Gemini is tapping into. When I tried this, I didn't get this, but Gemini was able to, for example, when I opened my camera and started kind of like panning around, I was able to ask questions about my mic, which everyone is noticing has a big, crazy purple round screen right now. And I was able to ask it like, oh, like what? Yeah, here for the video stream users, it's about as big as my head. It's purple and pink. I had to get it. But, I was asking, Gemini, hey, like what model of keyboard is this? When I pointed the camera down at my keyboard, it was able to tell me exactly what model it was. It had actually had a little bit of trouble telling me what mic I have, and I have a Shure SM7DB, and it's literally written like on the mic. It's just upside down, so I did have some problems, but it really was very much like a not as polished version of that Astra demo that we saw. So it looks like it's starting to roll out because this person on Reddit had Google One AI Premium. I have that as well. Michelle, I don't know if you have Google One. Maybe that's why you got it.
I do. I should check it.
Yeah, you should check it. Yeah. So maybe that's it. Not everybody, for example, the folks at Android Police that reported on this said they weren't able to access it. So if oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask a very unintelligent, uninformed question? How do you get the Gemini overlay on the screen? Because there have been times where I've been like in the mayhem of my daily life and I look at my phone and the little purple bar's on there. I'm like, no, I don't want it right now, but I don't know how I did it.
Long press the power button.
If I long press the power button, it tells me to turn my phone off.
I do the swipe up from the bottom corner, like diagonal toward the center. Left corner for me. I drag up from the left.
There it is. There we go.
Do you see share with live screen or share?
I don't have share with live.
Okay. So maybe it's might be just a staggered rollout.
It hasn't rolled out to a lot of people yet.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just special. Just kidding.
Hey, I learned something new. Now I know how to trigger Gemini. So.
Hey, Android Faithful, also here for all your questions. There's no such thing as an unintelligent question when it comes to Android.
Yeah, I will say when I tried it earlier today, I was a little impressed because like I held up my camera to this new the Android Pine Pal kind of fake wood Android bot figurine, and it actually got the exact the name of the Pine Pal, what it was actually made of, and this thing had only been released for a few days. Like it came out on Friday, so I was kind of surprised that it actually was able to look that up and accurately give me the information on it.
That is awesome.
So it's pretty impressive.
Very cool.
I did have a misfire on it because my wallpaper is a picture of a restaurant street in Tokyo, and you can see a sign on the wallpaper that says "World's Best Yakitori Restaurant." And so I had asked Gemini, "Hey, what do I have going on today?" Because I was thinking, oh, it might pick up that I have the show calendar event, and it kept telling me I had a yakitori delivery. And I was like, no, I don't have a food delivery. And it actually was thinking that my wallpaper was a widget. So not perfect, but pretty dang good.
Pretty dang good. I'm glad that Astra's finally coming to be a reality. But going back into the article where, I mentioned how ChatGPT's got 600 million users versus Gemini's 160. So it's safe to say that from a user standpoint, ChatGPT is winning. But Michelle, we were talking before the show. It looks like Gemini's getting an edge somewhere, though.
Yeah, so Google earlier today released their latest Gemini 2.5 Pro model. And I haven't had a chance to test it, although I do have it in the app and on the website. But it's basically winning all the benchmarks, all the AI benchmarks, which is really impressive because in general, Gemini has kind of not always been at the top of the rankings for many different tests. Like it's been at the top in one or more tests, but it seems like across the board, it's like steamrolled the competition, this latest release. So really impressive to see how far they've come.
Congratulations, Gemini! You're winning something. They're doing it. I do feel as if and again, also going back to the article, I do feel like they are getting the ship righted and getting on the right track and not scrambling like they were. And we felt it 2 years ago. They were just throwing stuff against the wall and they were scrambling and making mistakes. So I'm glad to see them taking a more metered approach, and it seems to be paying off. So we'll see. All right. Well, what's also paying off is all of you who support the show because you're awesome patrons and we love you. If you go over to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful, you are able to sign up there. You get access to an ad-free feed of the podcast. You get stickers, t-shirts, merch, fun stuff like that. We've got some cool stuff coming for Patreon coming next month. Actually, we had a meeting earlier today to give you a little sneak peek, and we're doing some cool stuff to the Patreon that's going to be coming to you loyal supporters. So get on before you miss out. But every week, every patron gets to vote on a story for us to talk about on the Patron News Pick. And did I date the episode wrong? I did date the episode wrong. Episode 87, Patron News Pick. And we have a repeat friend, Bug Droid friend from Davor Drobov, I can't pronounce this, Davor D, sent us a bunch of Bug Droids frolicking in the springtime with an Android newspaper, which is pretty nice. So thank you, Davor, for sending that in. This week we took a little different tact with the stories that you can all vote on. As opposed to straight up news stories, I looked for specific kind of think pieces with some different hot takes. And because, everybody loves talking about hot takes. So the hot take that came in last was I test 40 phones a year. Here's why the Moto Razr Plus goes back in my pocket. That got 19% of the vote. The second place hot take was the Pixel 9a is everything the iPhone 16e wished it was. I thought the Apple hot take would get the win, but there it is. But the number one hot take was an article from Android Authority that entitled "Nothing and Pixel Prove That Stock Android is a Thing of the Past." And Ryan over at Android Authority, Michelle, your esteemed coworker, wrote this piece basically, saying that at this point, all of the fun things that Pixel and now Nothing, and honestly, Samsung and all this other manufacturers are doing to their versions of Android are creating such a great position that it's challenging the position of stock Android, right? And that, having an operating system that has a light skin of Android isn't actually the same as stock Android anymore. And that there's, all these different flavors, and you've got, Graphene and Marina, EOS, and all these other ones that are taking an open source approach to it. But at the point where if you were to take a phone and actually install stock Android, you would find out that it's actually missing a ton of features. And this is actually, I thought it was really interesting to see this article come out because I've been thinking about this because I've talked often on the show how I want to move to another phone, but I'm afraid to leave Pixel because of all these features that they've added to the Pixel, right? And I feel like each one of these manufacturers have created a little bit something that you all get used to that you don't want to lose, right? So, I mean, when you've got extensive experience with Samsung phones, right? Michelle, you're currently using a Xiaomi, right? You're currently, you were on OnePlus for a while. Do you think you could, we'll start with you. Do you think if I handed you a phone with stock Android, you would be happy at this point, or do you need that extra something that the manufacturers are providing?
So I'm in a little bit of a weird situation because my day job is a developer, and so stock Android is kind of the baseline that we all live in, and that when we have to make a compromise on behavior because of OEMs doing this like thing A and thing B, we generally take stock Android. I'll put quotations around it now. Stock Android to be, our baseline. If it looks good on stock Android and we can't afford to spend time making it look good on Samsung, on nothing, on everything else, that's our North Star.
Right.
And I will
Which
say
that makes sense from a developer perspective.
From a developer perspective. Although I will say that if we're calling Pixel not stock Android, I will say that actually it's shifted to Pixel Android, because now I would say that, yes, in the world where stock Android doesn't exist, Pixel is the new North Star for devs. I would have to say that's a little bit wrong. We still care a lot about it. So I will say though that it does matter to me. I think, like, for example, if you hand me, like, even like using, say, a Motorola phone, which I actually really like the Motorola flavor, or the Nothing phone, I do feel it for a little bit. It does matter to me a bit, just because I'm a human and creature of habit, and I think that I get used to my shortcuts. I get used to my little OEM idiosyncrasies. So I think for user me, I get it. I 100% agree. And I think for a lot of people, stock Android hasn't mattered at all, because I think a lot of people, especially Samsung users, for example, never knew what stock Android was to begin with. So
we used to tout on the show. Me and Jason used to, when a phone would come out, be like, "Oh, it's close to stock." It was a selling point. It was close to stock Android. I don't know, Michelle, you've seen a lot of phones over the past couple of years. Could you go back to stock Android?
I've never used stock Android before. This is just the perennial argument that people bring up. What what is stock Android, right?
Yep.
If in the purest form, it's AOSP, just straight off from the open source version of Android, but nobody runs those on your phone, right? Not even people who flash alternative operating systems like Graphene or something run just pure AOSP. They add a whole bunch of features on top of it, a whole bunch of proprietary or open source applications to make it actually a usable phone operating system, right?
Right.
So what do people actually mean when they argue I want something that's stock Android?
No bloatware, no bloat.
That's another arbitrary. That's another arbitrary thing. Yeah, but what they mean, what I think people mean when they say I want stock Android, they want something that at least resembles the UI that you get on a Pixel phone. Yeah. So a Pixel phone is stock Android in the sense that it has a UI that is very close to AOSP, the pure form of Android, and also has the way it behaves, the way you interact with notifications, the way it treats apps in the background, all those sorts of little minute details that matter mostly to app developers, but also to the way you interact with your phone. Pixel doesn't really change much of that at all, right? So those are the kind of the two criteria: the way it looks and the way it behaves when it comes to applications. And there's technically no phone that runs stock Android, but if you judge an operating system on those two criteria, you'll see Pixel is the closest to stock Android. Nothing OS, it adds a lot of that dot flare and that kind of UI they have going for it, that font. But in terms of underlying behavior, it's kind of similar to stock Android, right? Motorola also, it looks a little bit different, but also has some of that underlying behavior. Like HyperOS on Xiaomi phones changes both pretty drastically, right? Even the way you interact with notifications, the way the UI looks, it looks completely different. So that's kind of the criteria that I think people really mean when they say they want stock Android.
Yeah.
They don't actually want pure AOSP. No one's ever wanted that. No one's ever used that.
And that's the point of Ryan's article, is that you would lose, this is why Android 1 didn't work, right? Because you lose so much, you lose so much in terms of features and actually, core features, but also apps that you take for granted that you assume aren't stock, but actually have become stock.
I mean, even Android 1 isn't stock Android.
Right.
By that metric, right? There's still UI changes. There's still some functional, there's still some additions they make that aren't in the open source version of Android.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. When I wanted to pick up on something that you mentioned, where as a developer, you needed to work on stock as the baseline, but pixels becoming the new stock.
Yeah.
But by those arguments, doesn't it make more sense to go by device penetration? And isn't Samsung the new default now because they have the biggest market share?
I mean, that's always been. I mean, that's a really great question, and I think that's always been the rub, is that forever since I've been a developer, I'm sure that's always been the case. I think the problem is that the Pixel has so even if we can't call Pixel stock, right, because it has all the Pixel addendums, its behavior is the closest to AOSP that we can get. And so by that regard, when something goes wrong, it is the most traceable, the thing that we can probably say assuredly, this is what's happening. Whereas when it comes to Samsung, because we don't actually know, what Samsung is doing under the hood, it's a lot harder to trace, and we're doing a lot of guessing. Very famously, 7 years ago, the white on a Samsung Android was not white, as in hex FFFFFF.
You're kidding me.
No, yes, I'm not kidding you. It was not white.
So, it was off-white? It was an eggshell?
Off-white. It was something, and it was driving designers crazy because we would do like little color pickers on screenshots, and this is literally not white. So that's like the classic example. I'm sure it is white now because I think me and a group of other people complained about it, and I think whoever thinks stuff could fix it. But that's right. That's kind of a simple but extremely classic example of, okay, that's the kind of thing that we have no insight to. It took someone literally like screenshotting and like checking the color of a pixel to understand, why does this defect exist? Yeah. And that was extremely hard to find out. So when it comes to things that are just even more complicated, it really doesn't make sense it's a lot harder to go by market penetration, just because a lot of that software is proprietary. So we have to go with what we can see, and thankfully there's a lot of AOSP that we can see, and that's that's usually a good bet. So it's the best bet we have.
All right, well, one last question coming off of this. You're both stuck on a desert island that is populated with other people, but you're never leaving the island, and no new phones are ever coming out. You have one phone that you're going to live the rest of your life with. Which flavor of Android, from stock all the way up, do you live the rest of your existence on this not desert island, on an island that is that you cannot leave with other people? Michelle, you can go first. What is your ride or die phone as of March 25th, 2025? Is it OnePlus? Is it Pixel? Is it
probably the OnePlus 13? Just an overall longevity, versatility.
So, but you like the
Oxygen OS.
The Oxygen OS, that element, that's the one that you would go with? Okay. Win, how about you? Would you go back to Samsung, or would you stay in Pixel land?
I'd stay in Pixel. I assume I can remote work from this island, so I would still need Pixel. No, I think I think I can always get used to a stripped. Stripped down is not even the right way to say it. I can live without the Samsung hyper customization, which I love. Yeah. Pixel.
All right, there you go. I would stay in Pixel land. Awesome vote, patrons. Thank you for that awesome discussion.
Yes.
I want to also thank patron username Standard Deviant, who did not leave his or her real name. And thank you, Standard Deviant, for supporting us. And you too can get on the action. Go to patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. And we're going to take a quick break before hardware. But before we do, a little breaking news update. While we were chatting, Clinton Woodward popped into the chat.
Clinton!
From his cruise to celebrate his birthday. So Clinton's streak of joining the live stream is alive. It is strong. 87 episodes. Clinton for the win. So thank you, Clinton.
So happy birthday, Clinton. Happy birthday, and thank you for your gift to us of showing up just to keep your perfect streak.
Yes.
So.
We're so glad you made it on the cruise ship Wi-Fi for a couple of minutes. So that's awesome.
Congrats on keeping your streak.
It totally counts. Yeah, he played an inning. He went out there. He sat on first base. He came back in. It still counts.
100%.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we got some cool hardware for you. All right, Michelle. Last week it finally happened, didn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, this week we were supposed to have the Pixel 9a on hand to show you, but unfortunately, we got the announcement last week of the Pixel 9a launching, but the phone hasn't actually launched. Like, it's not available for anyone yet. at least in the US. So Google announced the 9A. If you didn't catch Ron's coverage, he posted an article on androidfaithful.com that covers all the features and all the specifications, the pricing, etc. It's exactly as been leaked many times. It basically ditches that iconic camera bar design. Now has a completely flat back, which I'm gonna be honest, I think it looks a lot better now seeing it in different colors than it did just seeing like the boring the black and the silver color. Um, and the reason for that kind of flat camera design on the back, according to Google, is they approached the design of this device from how can we fit the biggest battery possible on a Pixel phone, and they decided, we're gonna put a 5500 milliamp hour battery on this phone. We're gonna put all the components that we want, and then as they built the phone, they realized, okay, well, the back is kind of already to the point where the camera is almost flush with it. Why not just go the little extra mile and just make it completely flat? That's what they did.
Which I
So
think,
now you have the biggest.
by the way, to unpack that, Michelle, sorry to interrupt. Favoring battery over camera components at this price level, thumbs up. Win, you're giving a thumbs up. We're all agreement, thumbs up.
100%.
And then making the decision that like, hey, we have the thickness, flatten out the camera bump. Cool, go for it. Nothing says you have to keep the Star Trek kind of camera Geordie thing, right? Like, do what's best for the device. So carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of pricing, it's a $499 Pixel smartphone. It's a mid-range Pixel A that's $300 cheaper than the base Pixel 9 without any discounts or trade-ins or anything like that. So it's quite a bit cheaper than the 9, and it still has a lot of the same features. Like it has a Tensor G4 processor, a lot of the AI features. It has 8 gigs of RAM. I think it starts at 128 gigabytes of storage. It has a dual rear camera comprising of a 48 megapixel main camera and a 13 megapixel ultra wide camera, and on the front, 13 megapixel selfie camera. I believe it also has the size of the display is 6.3 inches, I think.
I think so.
Is that right?
You mentioned the battery, right? Yeah.
6.3 inch
6.3
actual display, full HD resolution. Goes up to 120 Hz refresh rate, peak brightness 2700 nits, a lot of the same security features like Titan M2 security coprocessor, and there's a lot going on for it in terms of raw hardware.
If you buy it, you get 3 months of Google One, the aforementioned Google One. I don't know. Well, Google One is all the storage and stuff. It's not you have to pay for the extra AI stuff. But anyway, you still get Google One, 3 months of YouTube Premium, and 6 months of Fitbit Premium. So they're throwing all the stuff in the Google world at you to buy these phones. So,
Right. So there's a lot going on for this phone in terms of like raw hardware, the price, the value that you get for that $4,999 price point. But the problem is, it was supposed to go on pre-order last week when they announced it, but they had to delay it at the very last minute. And I mean at the last minute. Like they literally told us the night before the embargo lifted that, hey, we're delaying the pre-orders. And according to Android Authority, it's because of a, quote, component quality issue that they're checking on. So we don't know exactly what component or what issue is happening, but hopefully they'll fix the issue and resolve it before they start shipping or opening up pre-orders sometime next month.
And here's a question. Did anyone check the made in China line or made in anything? Or are those all spelled correctly?
I think someone did check, and there's no.
Good.
I don't even think they're made in China. I think they're actually made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
If you look at some other big Pixel phones.
So that was my first thought, was that there was a misspelling of one of the components, but that'd be too uncanny if that actually happened. So.
So of course, not everything is perfect with this phone. In order to reach that $499 price point, they had to compromise in some areas, and one of the compromises they had to do was that, because of the lower 8 gigabyte of RAM available on the Pixel 9a compared to the 12 on the 9 and the 16 on the Pro, Google basically had to create an extra small version of its Gemini Nano model. So this version of the model doesn't run in the background continuously, doesn't support multimodal capabilities, so no image input, which means features like pixel screenshots and call notes aren't available. And also, because you have less memory to work with, you can have fewer apps available at the same time and running in the background. So that's one of the downgrades for the 9A, which probably many people won't be that upset by, considering all the other benefits that you get at the price point.
Again, there are trade-offs you have to make, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, going back to battery or camera, they went battery, right? Full modal support, Gemini, full AI stuff. You're going to need to go higher to get that if you want it. You get a little bit. $5 says the person using the Pixel 9a just needs a little bit of Gemini. So
yeah. And the other compromise they had to make was in the modem. Instead of the same Exynos modem 5400 that's available in the rest of the Pixel 9 series, Google actually went with last year's Exynos modem 5300, which is available in the Pixel 8 series. And as a result, the Exynos modem 5300 does not support satellite connectivity, which is why the Pixel 9a does not support any of the satellite messaging features that are available in the 9 series, such as satellite SLS or satellite messaging through the Google Messages app. So if you're looking forward to those features, you have to compromise and live without them, because the 9A just does not have the hardware to allow it to support those features.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, every time I go into New York City and I go under the tunnel to get into Penn Station on the train, and my phone switches to a little satellite mode, I always kind of go, "Ooh, that's so cool!" Right? But luckily, I don't need it because I'm not in danger. But yeah, that's the kind of thing where I think the again, you make the trade offs, right? And is satellite. It would be great if the satellite feature was ubiquitous to everyone, because then that gives everyone an extra layer of safety if they're in a place with no cell service. But you got to make trade offs somewhere. Right.
I think it makes sense because I think the last few years we've been not complaining. We've been saying that the A series is so good that it's kind of it's starting to eat a little into that base model, you know, Pixel X whatever audience, right? So basically, yeah, if you just can't wait, or if you just can't wait, you know, for the A, or you just feel like being part of the hype, it made sense for you to buy the baseline model and not the Pro model. But the A series was so good. If you're a patient, you got a very similarly good phone. So it was like, why do these both exist? Why don't we all just wait? So they've definitely made a really good distinction between the two, both visually and in terms of like making it be a real choice, right? There's a choice there: battery or this, Gemini, or, you know, like Gemini, or like a little Gemini versus a lot of Gemini. So it really makes sense. I think they've kind of brought back the purpose of the A series to be a good alternative.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Cool.
Well, in terms of just phones that have a new look to them, we talked last week about a weird phone that we literally just got a leaky peeky at, but in the interim, it has launched, and that is the Huawei Pura X flip phone. So this thing, we got a good look at this now. There's no peeky. This is like a full-on look. And what's super fascinating is that this is a flip phone, but it is not a clamshell or a book. It's something in between. So this is a phone that is as small as a clamshell, but the hinge is vertical. So it's almost like a mini book. So it has a similar enough aspect ratio to your flips and your razors, but the hinge is vertical and it opens out into the 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which, as we said last week, is very much like a Kindle-y, you know, Fire tablet aspect ratio that really seems like a reader. And yeah, that's what we got. We got a really good look at it. The front screen, it does not go all the way. It kind of is in the bottom, most of the bottom, I'd say the bottom 70%. And there's a triple camera array on the front. And as we mentioned last week, you know, the 16 by 10 inner display and 6.3 inches, 16:10 aspect ratio. And yeah, it's really interesting because and I think I mentioned this on maybe like DTS Briefing or something with Jason. It's really interesting because most flippables or foldables, when you open it and you get a screen along the same axis, if that makes sense. But with this Pura X, it starts out in like one orientation, and when you open up, you have to flip it over to get the screen right side again.
You don't have to flip it over.
You don't
right?
have to,
but then you run into that weird aspect ratio problems that we ran into when the OnePlus Open came out. Remember, there was that weirdness that went on,
yeah.
right? Yeah. I mean, but it definitely, it's like it opens and closes like a book, left to right open, and then you do rotate it 90 degrees to get the full height of the unfolded version. I don't know. Cool. This is cool. They innovated, right?
Actually, this is interesting for that question of, do we only cover Android? Because Actually, technically not. Right now, we're not covering Android because this is Huawei's first phone to completely leave Android behind for good. It's powered by Harmony OS Next, and it has the Huawei flavor of AI assistant as well. So yeah, we're kind of cheat. I don't know if we're cheating because it just seems so adjacent to what we talk about because it's foldables, and they very previously did use Android. But yes, this is the Port X. It is only available in China, where it starts at 7,500 yuan, which is around $1,000, 1,037, which is kind of on par for clamshell foldable still. So anyway. Yes, this is our. We're technically covering a non-Android phone.
So was it what we expected?
Yeah.
No, honestly,
No?
Really?
no, I didn't expect it to unfold sideways. To be honest, I thought it would just be a slightly wider clamshell folding phone.
Yeah.
They said
Honestly,
vertical
I'm kind of
hinge,
curious to
so-
see if any other companies are going to copy this form factor. I feel
Yeah.
like the reason it hasn't been done before is just because like it's so awkward. You got to unfold it sideways,
And then
and a
turn
lot
it.
of times you got to turn it if you
Yeah.
want to use apps in their portrait mode. I think it's
Yeah.
going to have like the same issue that the first gen Pixel Fold had, when a
Yeah.
lot of apps weren't really landscape compatible.
That's what it was.
You know,
the
you
Pixel
unfolded
Fold.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you had to turn it the other way to actually get a lot of apps to display properly.
Yeah. So it's wild. I think
Wow.
good on them for doing something different. We'll see if it works in China. And yeah, I mean, and when you bring up a good question, do we not cover Huawei now that they're off of the Android train? We'll see. I don't know. They're not available in the US anyway. So
Android faithful asterisks or
And a
Android
little
faithful
Huawei.
plus and a little Huawei's.
well, who is still running Android?
Well, you know who is making some darn fun phones is Motorola. So we do have more of a leaky peeky of the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra design. Some renders were leaked on X, formerly known as Twitter. And we don't have a lot of solid specs, but to be perfectly frank, it looks a lot like the Razr 50 series. Curved edges, same foldable clamshell display, the outer cover display going all the way to the edge with two cutout cameras. And the thing that might be interesting is the Ultra model's processor, which is either going to be a Snapdragon 8 Elite or a Snapdragon 8S Elite. We're not quite sure yet. I think we talked about the base model last week, which is, again, a base model. So it's got the MediaTek Dimensity 7400X. So if you want a more super powered, not super sized, but super powered one, you might want to hold your pennies for the Ultra. It does seem like we might get an improvement in the water dust protection for the Razr 60 series, with it going from IPX8 to possibly IP48 rating. That feels like a trend this year with foldables. Everybody's kind of shoring up their foldables and flippables against water and dust. The battery is going to increase slightly from 4,200 milliamps to 4,500 milliamps, if rumors are to be believed, and probably will have faster wire charging support. We're kind of thinking it might be released around June 2025. That's just based on previous release cycles from Motorola, the Motorola line. But there's your leaky peeky of the Razr 60. I will say I'm very glad about that because, which model does friend of the show Michael Fisher's keyboard work on? Is it the Razr 50 or the other Razr? Anyway, I was hoping that I could still use my Clicks keyboard that I just pre-ordered on the thing. Michael,
Clicks for Razr. It works on the Razr Plus and Razr 2024, Razr 50, and Razr 50 Ultra. So yeah.
So if these specs are to be believed, if you pre-ordered, sorry, Michael, free advertising for
We're
you.
giving a free ad,
I
Michael.
get a
You better,
free ad,
you better
Michael.
appreciate this.
I will say, I'm excited that I pre-ordered my Clicks, and hopefully it'll fit on a Razr 60. So
And
anyway,
we will continue the support of our friend of the show, Michael
Yes.
Fisher, by saying if you do go to Clicks at clicks.tech, buy the cool colors. Get the electric version for the
Yes,
Razr, or get the
electric
yellow one
blue.
for the Pixel. Support
Yeah.
cool colors. So.
yeah, so cool colors. Get you a Mountain Dew colored keyboard.
Speaking of cool colors, there's a little more at Motorola, right?
Yeah. Well, so it seems that there might be a return to the wood finish.
Michelle, it could match your little bug droid.
maybe that's prescient. Maybe that's why Andrew Bell had that. So another leak, which actually that post got taken down, but Evan Blass, very reliable leaker, did post some renders that looked like there might be a wood finish ? I mean, I guess you could construe it as being, what would you call that? Like metal, like brushed stainless steel finish. It could be a wood finish though. There's definitely some grain, like vertical grains along the back side of the back bottom half of the phone.
It could be some sort of rose gold kind of textury kind of thing. It looks kind of woody, but then the metallic Moto logo in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
it's hard to tell. It would be, to be honest, I miss my wood-backed Motorola phone. I forgot which model it was ages ago, right? But it was the Motorola with the little that still had the little finger dimple in the back before we, the old finger dimple. But yeah, who knows? We don't know if this actually is a wood grain, whether it's real wood or faux wood. But I don't know. Let us know if you miss that old wood grain on your phones, and really, really hope that your Razr 60 is going to come with a nice, I don't know, mahogany. What I don't know. Is that birch? Oak.
So let's see. Sorry, the wood-backed phone
Oh, I miss it
on the
so
Moto
much.
X. It was, yeah.
The Moto X, yes.
Yep,
Yes.
there
I
it
had a
is.
wood-backed Moto X phone.
The
Yes.
wood-backed Moto.
Yes.
That was a fun
Oh,
one.
sorry, Willie. I
Yeah.
missed your message. Yes, Willie got me on the Moto X. Yes, it was. And
Yep.
oh, it looks so good. It looks
That was
so
a
good.
one. Yep.
Bring it
Oh
back.
man, I hope they do the wood. They do cool things, do weird things.
Yes, cool and weird.
And going back to doing weird things and cool things, that might not be totally Android. I did notice for, talk about target marketing to the nostalgia crowd. There is a Atari smartwatch coming to market. I saw coverage of this. The Atari 2600 My Play Watch is basically a smartwatch that exists purely to have Atari-esque nostalgia looks to the watch band and contain games like Pong, Super Breakout, Centipede, and Missile Command. I could not find if these are running Wear OS. I don't think they are.
No chance.
No, you never say no chance, but
There's no chance these things run Wear OS.
no, but yeah. So these are basically hot off the heels of Pebble's release in the smartwatch world and stuff like that. The Atari 2600 My Play Watch allows you to not only monitor your heart rate, track your steps, and all that fun stuff that you expect from a watch, but also play some Missile Command while you're at it. So if you love Atari, this might be the smartwatch for you. So
Ron, you want to know a quick way to find out if it runs Wear OS or not?
what
What is the rated battery life? The quoted battery life?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. What did they say it is? Let's see. It doesn't say. $79.99. Ships on June 10th. It does not say what the battery life is. No Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely not Wear OS.
But hey, for all of you retro gaming nerds, which I'm one of them, if they came out with an Intellivision watch, I'd be all over it for sure. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap up hardware for this week. We got a bunch of apps and we got emails from you out in the audience. But first, we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back with some apps. All right, Michelle, what's Google up to these days?
So if you've ever hoped for Gmail search to be smarter, Google is finally rolling out an update to Gmail search that infuses it with AI. So instead of doing a simple keyword match, Gmail will now use AI to show you the most relevant results. It'll factor in things like recency, most clicked emails, and frequent contacts. So basically, hopefully finding you the right emails you're looking for much more quickly. This update brings the most relevant search results, and it's rolling out globally for users with personal Google accounts, and you can access it on the web and in the Gmail app for Android and iOS. Once it's available, you'll have a toggle that allows you to switch between the most relevant and the most recent results. This is not available yet for business users, but it will be expanding in the future.
All right, cool.
And another new feature should delight some parents, especially if you ever wanted to give your child the opportunity or the ability to make contactless payments with their phone or watch. So Google Wallet in the US, UK, Australia, Spain, and Poland can now be set up to allow children to access digital payments on their Android device with supervision. So this is rolling out soon, and it'll allow kids to use Google Wallet to tap to pay in stores and keep passes like event tickets, library cards, and gift cards in the Wallet app. In order to give parents control over what payments and what cards they can store, the Wallet app will allow child's payment cards to only be added with parental consent, and parents will receive an email whenever a child makes a transaction using their phone or their watch. Parents can also easily track recent purchases, remove payment cards, and turn off access to passes right in Family Link.
So as a parent, I mean, my kids don't have phones yet, thank God, because they're 6. But they're gonna get a phone someday, and I like for me like one hand is just like they don't need to tap for like you don't need, but like my kid in 10 years when my kids are out there on phones, they probably will, right? It's gonna be like we'll be probably closer to where I mean hell, I barely carry cash as it is anyway these days, right? And so you don't want your kids to be left out in the wild and not be able to get home some way, shape, or form or buy something. So I guess this is good, but it always freaks me out.
I think a smartwatch would be a good idea. Instead of giving your kid like a bunch of credit cards, right?
Yeah.
It's safer just have them have a smartwatch that's always on their body that they can use for emergency contacts and making payments in emergencies, everything they need right on their wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until they lose it. And you got to buy another one. Oh, God. Anyway. All right, cool. Well, good stuff from Google. Thank you so much.
Speaking from experience there, Ron.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's when I was a kid.
Well, what are your kids most likely to lose? A phone or a watch, or is it just equally just?
I do not give them an inch in either direction.
Fair enough.
They will surprise you when.
Okay, noted.
My daughter who forgets that she wore a hoodie to school. Like, where's your hoodie? I didn't wear one. Yes, you did. Where is it? So, anyway, all right. Well, what's going on in messages land?
Well, in another rendition of the Google Hokey Pokey, they took a feature out, but they're putting it back in. So we're on that end of the dance. So if in Google Messages you miss the ability to have picture-in-picture, and really it was like embedded video inside of your Google Messages. So someone sent in your chat, sent a YouTube link. You will soon, hopefully, if text and other kind of, UI artifacts that are in Google Messages but not actually active yet or fully implemented are to be believed, that feature is coming back. So hopefully soon you will be able to, again, watch kind of video inline in Google Messages when someone sends you a link. The folks over at Android Authority, of course, did one of their usual APK teardowns, and they were able to get a floating window opened when this interface where they have like the thumbnail that pops up when you send someone a link. They were able to click on it and get a floating window open, but that just errored. So feels like they're quite a way along the process of bringing it back, but it's just not quite ready yet. But keep your eyes open for that. And then do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around when you actually get to load your YouTube videos.
I don't know. I don't love the tiny video window on the phone. I just would rather open up the app, or I guess you can tap it and go full screen in that regard. I don't like floating.
Yeah. That's a good point, Ron. I guess it depends. If it's a short, I don't care. But if it's a long form video, that would get annoying. I mean, wait. So is it the same floating? I wonder if would it become just your regular YouTube picture in picture? And then just hang out?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the typical, it's just plugging into the way the YouTube app already currently works, just accessing it.
Yeah, maybe there's something about the intent passing back and forth that's not working. Anyway.
All right, and then real quickly, got some freebies for you, everybody. First comes the first. Epic. First things first. Epic Games is making their play to become the go-to place for games on Android, and so they launched a free games program on mobile. Every week, they're going to be offering games for free. So they started last week on March 20th with Super Meat Boy Forever and Eastern Exorcist. And basically they're highlighting all the various games that have been added to both iOS and Android. So if you like games and you like things for free, you might want to download the Epic Game Store and keep an eye out for their weekly free games, and you can get some fun stuff. And this is a free always works to increase users and increase market share, right? So this is a tried and true tactic as Epic makes their play to be a viable game store out in the mobile space on both iOS and Android. So you can get those games. You can get Super Meat Boy and Eastern Exorcist for free until March 27th, which is in 2 days from now, this Thursday. And then presumably there'll be 2 more games that are available for free. So keep an eye out for that. And then last but not least, this is my annual reminder to everyone who is a T-Mobile user and also likes baseball. As of today, T-Mobile's promotion with MLB.TV went live. So if you have the T-Life app, you can go in and you can redeem a free subscription to MLB.TV for the entire baseball season. Every year, this saves me $150 and allows me to watch baseball So this is like honestly a reason to keep T-Mobile is like, I don't want to lose the MLB.TV offer. So they announced it last February. It went live today, T-Mobile Tuesday, March 25th, and it's valid up until March 31st. So if you're a baseball fan, jump on this and get on board because you don't want to miss out on something free. So there you go. Seriously, I've been getting that offer and talking about it on the show at least for 10 years now. It is like one of the most ongoing, you could set your watch, buy it promotions that I can remember. Like that's great. So
raise your hand if you like free things.
Free things are great. Yeah, free things are excellent. Love it. So, and guess what? It doesn't cost you anything to email us. It's totally free to send an email to contact@androidfaithful.com. We love to hear from you, especially when you answer our questions, which is awesome. And we've been talking about DEX users, which is why I'm very excited because our emailer from last week, Clayton, followed up because I chastised him for not sending a photo. Clayton wrote in and said, was listening to the episode last Wednesday, and you're right. I completely forgot to include pictures. Here's my on-the-go setup with the exception of my mouse. I didn't feel like pulling it out, so I'm using the phone itself as a trackpad, which is a very cool solution. And in this picture you're about to see, he's got a refurbished UPerfect 2K 16-inch display for $70, a Logitech K380, great keyboard, for $44, and various typical USB cords and chargers. So here is Clayton's DEX setup with that monitor, that Logitech keyboard. Looks pretty cool. It's a pretty cool setup. I don't know. What do you guys, how would you rate? Let's rate setups. How would you rate this? Give it on a scale of 1 to 5 bug droids. How many bug droids would you give this setup?
I mean, I guess it doesn't take up a lot of space on desk.
Yeah.
Although, like, where's the phone? I thought they said they were using it as a trackpad.
Yeah, but he's taking a picture with the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'd get frustrated pretty quickly with
phone as a trackpad,
the keyboard and the trackpad setup. I'll have to try it out to find out.
Yeah, that Logitech keyboard, for our audio listeners, it's the Logitech K380. It's the one with the round keys, the kind of like almost mechanical. It's a very nice. Logitech does great stuff. So Clayton goes in further. He says, since I would have my phone anyway, I think of this as a $114 alternative to a new laptop, which is a great point, Clayton. That's really good. He says, true, there are some things that just don't quite work, but desktop mode on websites helps a lot, and enough browsers have a decent tabbed interface. I'm partial to Vivaldi, but will also use Edge. I use Firefox mostly when handheld, as they simply do not have an interface reasonable to use in desktop mode. It was great to hear some desktop mode love from Adam last week on the show, and seeing the Pixel 9a support DP alt mode and 8a before that, etc., makes it a very tempting choice with all the desktop mode developments being made by Google. So, exciting stuff. Thank you, Clayton, for following up. But that's not all. Right, Win?
It is not. We also got another follow-up from Jordan. Hey, Android Faithful, you asked about Samsung DeX being used and wanted pictures of people's setups with it. Well, last summer I tried using DeX and only DeX for a couple of weeks, and it mostly worked, except for high-end gaming needing my PC. While I was using DeX, I had an S23 plugged into an Anker USB-C hub with Ethernet, DisplayPort to the monitor, USB keyboard, mouse, and headset, and even external drive accessories. The phone sat in a holder arm that was screwed into my desk so I could use the phone itself if needed while DeX was running. It was nice not having to worry about syncing all of my digital activities because everything I was doing was on a single device. Was using a Galaxy Watch 5 along with it. A few things did get wonky, notably with browser usage and websites still wanting to serve me with the mobile version of the site versus the desktop version, but it was manageable. One of my sons is soon to graduate from high school in the coming months, and I gifted this phone and all the accessories to him as a tool to use as he starts making his way in the world. I'm currently back to a Pixel 6a. Love the show. Hopefully you enjoy the setup I had for DeX, and maybe others can be inspired to try something similar. Jordan.
And here's a photo of Jordan's setup. And you can see he's got his keyboard, standard monitor. There's a little phone stand there to the right. Mouse, like this, it's straight up a desktop.
That's cool. That's really cool, Jordan. I would never have guessed. Like that's a proper setup. Legit.
Yeah. And here's the thing about desktop mode and what DeX can offer is the fact that the idea of having one device. Whenever I travel, I've got to throw my laptop in my bag and my phone in my pocket and my tablet in my bag. and all these sort of stuff, and you got all these devices, and I'm accessing the same services. Less and less is being done locally, right? It's tempting to just have one device have everything. We're almost there, I feel like. I don't know. It's maybe someday.
You got one phone in your pocket and the other one can't
Oh,
get on
dear.
Wi-Fi. I don't know. I'm sorry.
All right.
so sorry.
We got one non-Dex email to go. Michelle, all you.
All right, our last email for today comes in from Andy from Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne.
We wrote in to say, Melbourne. Good day to all the Android faithful. I hear everybody singing the praises of this new OnePlus watch, and I have a question that no reviewer ever addresses. Can it be configured such that the second hand in an analog watch face remains visible for longer than a few seconds? I suspect the answer is no, given it's based on Android Wear. This is a problem I have struck with all the current crop of smartwatches, and I find it extremely frustrating. I accept my use case is niche, but here it is. I am a veterinarian, and sometimes I need to time things while not being able to touch my watch. Surely the same situation arises with others. Example, medicos and first responders. The issue, I think, is that watch vendors want to spruik the great battery life of their product, and having to redraw the watch face every second to display a moving second hand causes a drain on the battery, which they find unacceptable. As a humble user, I find it just gobsmacking that smartwatches, which can quantify one's life to the nth degree and generally do everything short of cooking you pancakes for breakfast and taking the dog for a walk, can't do the simple basics of any analog watch. Display the time as seconds passing by. Thanks for reading this far, and keep at it. And thanks for writing in, Andy from Melbourne. So, as Win was reading the second email, I actually switched to an analog watch face on the OnePlus Watch 3. And as Andy described, when the watch transitions to the AOD, the second hand does indeed disappear. So it's not continuously shown as the seconds progresses, which I believe means the answer to your question is no on this watch. And I think you already know the answer as to why that's the case. It's to save battery life. I don't know if there's a way to configure it to make it so that the second hand is always showing at all times. If there is such a setting, I'll have to look it up. But as far as I can see, when I was configuring the watch face, there was no such option.
And that's an interesting use case because, yeah, as a veterinarian, he's probably listening to heartbeats or whatever, and there might be. Is there an app that will do it? There's got to be like a stopwatch app or something, right? But I guess you've got to stop and open the app and everything when you just want to look at your watch.
Yeah,
right?
just literally look at it and then just
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Offset the seconds as you need. Yeah, like an old watch.
Yeah. Well, that's a bummer. I want things to work for people, right?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would say go the app route, but yeah, that might not be a good solution there. So.
All right. Well, if anyone has any ideas for Andy, please write in and let us know at contact@androidfaithful.com. But that is our show for this week, y'all. And well, why don't we just wait? So Jason's not here. So Michelle, let the folks know what it is that you do, all the things that you do.
Well, when I'm not as sick as I am today, I generally write about all things Android, currently for Android Authority. Speaking of which, I have a pretty big Android-related news article dropping tomorrow. So actually, that'll be Wednesday for
Teaser.
live listeners today. So if you're looking for big Android news, be sure to keep an eye out on that. All my articles, I post about them. I reshare them on all my social media platforms, X, Mastodon, Threads, Telegram, and I also have a Patreon account where I allow people to join a Discord community that's exclusively available to patrons, where I tease and I also share a lot of upcoming information on new Android versions.
And Michelle, I got invited to a Signal group with you, and there were some other people talking about Yemen. It was really weird. Sorry.
I assure you, nothing on that chat was classified.
Oh my gosh, it took me a minute.
A little Politico
Oh my
humor for you
gosh.
there. There you go.
Excellent, Ron. Well, apart from comedy, what else do you do, man? Let the people
I don't
know.
do comedy very well, but yeah, you can go follow me at RonXO across the various social spots. I'm all out there. I'm most active on Instagram. There you can see me if you see the big red, white, and blue kind of Target logo. That is me. And posting about movies and bands and music and stuff like that. I recently saw the Refused last Friday night. They're on their farewell tour. So that was a fun show in Brooklyn. You can see everybody with their phones during their most popular song here if you go to the latest video on my Instagram. But yeah, good times. So
Man, I see you have the Brutalist there on your Instagram account. Just quit your 10-second review on the Brutalist.
Really, really good. Love the score. Love the cinematography. Falls apart in the second part.
Okay. All right.
So,
I'm a little...
and much like Conclave, it gets lumped in a group of movies that I got annoyed by because you don't need to hit me over the head with your metaphor. I get it. I'm an intelligent person. But the Brutalist likes to really smack you in the face with the metaphor at the end. So.
Is that like all Oscar, we'll say Oscar bait, but Oscar contenders are like that?
No, not all. Honora wasn't like that. Although maybe Honora was. Maybe Honora did smack you in the head with the class war.
I mean, the Substance certainly did, but I love the Substance. So
yeah. No, but Conclave did it too. Like, I get it. God closes a door, he opens a window. I get it, right? Like the Brutalist. Like, I get it. Commerce versus art. Commerce will always win. I get it. You know, like. Anyway,
sorry about
movies,
that.
But Win, where can people find you?
I'm Android Dev, randomlytyping.com for my Android related stuff, usually speaking. Like this speaking, I'm going to be doing at KotlinConf. That prevents me from going to Google I/O, but it's a good time. I love Kotlin. And yeah, you can find me on the social media networks, usually at Queen Code Monkey. On Blue Sky, I'm queencodemonkey.dev, but that's me. And that is us. And that is it for this week. Thank you all so much for joining us this week. We publish this podcast every Tuesday evening. Feel free to join us live. I will have to say that Clinton did come back and say that he has officially ended the streak. He says that jumping into chat doesn't count. So
yes, it does. No, Clinton doesn't get to decide. We decide.
Shoot. Okay.
Clinton,
he's on a cruise and he jumped on the chat.
Alive.
That counts.
The streak is alive.
We'll discuss it next week or whenever Clinton gets back. But if you would like to get into the running for the next longest streak, depending on whether we count Clinton's as live or not live, join us live also on youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show or on twitter.com/Daily Tech News Show. Subscribe at androidfaithful.com on our website, or if you're more of a Patreon person, go to patreon.com/androidfaithful. And again, write us your stories, trials, tribulations, advices, questions at contact@androidfaithful.com. It's too much of a party here. We're having a good time. Join us next time.
All right. Streak's alive, Clinton. If you took the time to, on your cruise, to go back to your room and get on your device and find the live stream and fight with the cruise ship Wi-Fi in order to say hello in the chat, Streak's alive.
He deserves it.
You know, it might be a lot of pressure to keep the streak alive. Maybe he's just willing to put the sword down and let someone else.
Possibly, yeah.
Give the man his perfect attendance award.
Give him a break. I just want him to get to 100 episodes.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. We'll discuss it next week. Clinton, just be open to discussion.
Okay. So our title options tonight, we got Gemini and the Yakitori incident. Google is to Gemini as Microsoft was to IE. Stock Android versus stocked Android. Pixel 9a, the A stands for awesome. Android sometimes faithful. Android unfaithful does free advertising. Birch, I'm from Moto. What do you know about me? Big oak wood back from a tree.
That one might be a little bit too long.
I like it.
EU tells Apple to share and share alike. Gemini, the Waymo of AI.
Oh, goodness.
What is stock Android? Android soup stock. Debugging Samsung's colors. Woodward and Cruise Streak. Pixel 9a waiting for quality material. Huawei's flippable harmony. Android faithful and Huawei sometimes too. And this Razor clicks.tech. I feel like the streak is alive should be one of them.
Streak is alive.
Yeah. So
sorry, Clinton. The streak is alive.
I feel like somebody put in one, didn't they?
It was Woodward and Cruise Streak? Woodward and Cruise Streak? Or not?
I thought I just saw the streak is alive, but maybe not. Yeah, that's fine. What do you guys think?
What was it the top again?
The top one is Gemini and the Yakitori incident.
I personally like it because obviously it happened to me. I worry too much. It's like you had to be there kind of thing.
And also Yakitori ends in an I, not a Y, right?
It does. I wasn't going to say anything. It's okay.
There we go. The streak is alive. There
The streak
it
is.
is.
Thank you, cousin of Ja. Thank you, cousin of Ja.
I like a variant of the EU one. The EU tells Apple to learn to share. Kind of like
Okay.
your mom telling your kid.
Right.
That's hilarious.
That could
Gemini,
be
the
good.
Waymo
I wish
of
there was one
AI.
that was like that was Gemini and stock Android somehow mixed, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. Birch, I'm from Moto.
Gemini says stock Android doesn't exist.
Gemini hallucinates stock Android.
Oh, I like that
that's
one.
a good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Sorry, we're preempting everybody.
Yep. We're allowed to. What is it? Gemini.
Gemini
Hallucinates
hallucinates stock Android.
Yeah. It's stock Android. Seriously, everybody watching, go read that article. It was I just
was
thought
really
it was
good.
fascinating. Yeah. So.
Pac Northwest, I knew you know how to spell it because I know you've been to Japan before. I just figured, it was like a typo
we're
or
typing really
something.
fast. Yeah, it's
My
all good.
bad.
So, and you're correct, because I do not know TikTok star Glorilla. So
Sort of know who Glorilla is. I don't really know.
I've been
I know I
enjoying
should
Pop
know.
Culture Jeopardy on Amazon Prime Video with host Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live, and I'm like very good at it, but they'll pop up like TikTok
Yeah.
dances, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm out.
I should try that. I'll see how I do. Probably
It's
not
good.
so
I've enjoyed it. It's been good. But yeah, aside from it being cheesy at times, it's been mostly good. So, all right, everybody. Well, Michelle, congratulations. Thank you for powering through the episode with your cough. I was trying to monitor you when you were coughing, so to cover it up. I think we did all right, but I don't think you can even tell that you're sick. But
No.
go rest, get some rest, feel better. Do your big. So we're still live, but we're not recording. Tell everybody what the scoop is tomorrow for your big article.
You'll find out tomorrow.
All right, next time. All right, everybody tune into that. So, all right, next week we will not have Michelle, but we will have Jason back. And Win, I assume you'll be here with us. So,
I believe so.
cool. All right. All right, well, until next week, everybody go have a drink in Clayton's honor and wish him a happy birthday wherever everybody is, and we'll see you next week. Be good to one another.
Night.
We love you all. Bye.